Hello everyone, I hope you all are doing well. So in my recent video I talked a bit about why it can be hard for Taiwan to make more than 20% of renewable energy, which is the goal for 2025, and I found out actually that a lot of people are very interested in this topic. It makes me also very happy. So I thought in today's video I want to talk about 3 ways for Taiwan to introduce more renewable energy. So let's get started. On a hot day in Taiwan, the demand for electricity, and this includes all electricity in Taiwan, every AC unit, every TV, all the industries, everyone, going to work using electricity there, everything combined looked something like this. It's quite interesting actually. We can see in the night that the demand for electricity is quite low, of course, because everyone is sleeping, and then around 6 or 7 people wake up, go to work, the demand for electricity becomes much higher, and we can also see a dip around lunch, because of course when people eating they don't use so much electricity, and usually the highest point is reached sometime in the afternoon. During rush hour, everyone is in their car, so they don't use so much electricity, and then when people get home, they turn on their appliances and the demand for electricity usually goes up a bit again. Because of the pandemic, more and more people in Taiwan, of course, are working from home, and this has actually led to an increase in demand of electricity. And the reason for this is, if 20 people go to the office, for example, there will be a big AC unit there, but that will still use less electricity than 20 small AC units if everyone is working from home. Let's start by adding the nuclear power plants. And in Taiwan there are currently 2 nuclear power plants running, one in the north and one in the south, and both of them have 2 reactors, and every reactor is about 1000 megawatts. So if we add all that together, it becomes 4000 megawatts. And nuclear power plants is quite an inflexible way of generating electricity, and this means that there will not be such a big variation throughout the day. Coal power plants is also, of course, a very important way of generating electricity in Taiwan, and on any given day about 40% of the electricity will come from coal. Taiwan also have a very ambitious goal of installing a lot of solar panels, a lot of solar PV, and with solar PV, it will only generate electricity when the sun is shining, and on a typical sunny day it will look something like this. Now we're gonna take a look at the natural gas power plants in Taiwan. The good thing about the natural gas power plants is that they are very flexible. So in the afternoon when the sun goes down and we don't have so much solar energy anymore, then the natural gas can be very fast to ramp up and cover up for all of that extra electricity needed. There is of course also some extra capacity in the grid if, for example, the demand becomes much higher than expected, or if there is some problem in some of the power plants, and this should be about 15% in Taiwan, but recently, because the demand has been very high and there's also been some problem, of course, as you all know, with some of the power plants, so the extra capacity has been more like between 6 and 10%. There are of course also a number of other sources for generating electricity in Taiwan, for example oil, diesel, hydro and wind. However, all of them are quite small, about 1% or less, so in today's video we're not going to take them into consideration. The goal for 2025 is to introduce about 4 times as much solar PV as we have today, and if we had all that capacity right today, it would look something like this. One problem that this will introduce to the grid is that in the afternoon, when the sun goes down and the sun stops producing electricity, there will of course be a very steep demand for electricity in Taiwan, and the way that Taiwan is dealing with this is by converting some of the coal power plants to natural gas power plants, because they are more flexible to deal with this gap in the evening, and burning natural gas instead of coal results in fewer emissions of nearly all type of air pollutants and carbon dioxide. If Taiwan wants to go beyond the goal of installing 20 gigawatt of solar panels and, for example, install 40 gigawatts of solar panel, the generation curve would look like this. And one very interesting thing we can see here is that at some parts in the middle of the day we are actually generating more electricity than we need. And other countries, for example Germany, which have a similar situation, it's very easy to solve, because when they have too much electricity they can just sell to France or Denmark or some other neighboring country. Since Taiwan is an island, all of this extra electricity you need to take care of by yourself in some way, and one way to do this is with the help of energy storage. Energy storage is a way to save the electricity you are generating now so that you can use use it later. And one very common way of energy storage is of course batteries that we have in our phone and our computer in a lot of different places. And the way it would work is that in the middle of the day when you are generating too much electricity, you would take all of that electricity, you would put it into a battery, and then in the evening you would use that electricity. And to store all of this extra electricity generated in this example, we would need a battery of about 20 gigawatt hours, and this is the same as all of the batteries in about 200,000 Tesla Model S. Another way of energy storage that is already used in Taiwan is pumped hydro storage. And this works in the way that you pump water up to a higher place. Sun Moon Lake, for example, Sun Moon Lake have hydro pump storage, and in the afternoon then when you don't have so much solar electricity anymore, then you let all that water that you pumped up run through a generator and you can use that electricity in the evening. Another way to introduce more renewable energy is to do something called demand response, and this means that you are looking at the demand curve, how people are using electricity, and you try to change something in the demand curve to be able to use more renewable energy. And if you have too much solar in the day, like you have a very huge curve, and you can make it very cheap to use electricity during that time. So if people have a electric car, then maybe they want to charge it in the day when you have such a cheap electricity instead of in the evening when everyone is already using electricity. You can use these kind of things to change the demand curve, and in this way make it so that people are using electricity when you have a lot of electricity from renewable energy. As we have seen today, there is still quite some room for Taiwan to introduce more renewable energy, but it requires the grid to be very flexible. One way Taiwan is trying to deal with this is by converting some of the coal power plants to natural gas power plants, which are more flexible. To make the grid even more flexible, we can use energy storage, and today we talked about batteries and also pumped hydro storage as a way of storing electricity. Another way is to change the demand by introducing different pricing so that the price of electricity is cheaper when you have a lot of electricity and more expensive when you don't have so much. Some of the things that we didn't talk about in today's video is, for example, that the demand for electricity in Taiwan is actually increasing every year, so by 2025 there's probably going to be a higher demand for electricity than it is today. Taiwan is also investing a lot of money in wind power plants, and they're also planning to decommission all of the nuclear power plants by 2025. Of course, all of these things will also have a very big impact on the grid. If you are interested in this kind of questions, I highly recommend that you go to Taiwan Power Company's homepage, because they are sharing so much data there in Chinese, also in English. It would have been totally impossible for me to make today's video without all of the data they are sharing. I also really would like to hear a comment from you guys, if you agree with me or if you disagree with me. All of this is very interesting for me. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you all next time. Bye bye.